Welcome to Pathways Through the Prairie. I am your host, State Librarian Mary Soucie. We will interview North Dakota librarians and library staff, state government leaders and employees, and interesting North Dakotans. Join us as we meander down the pathways through the prairie. I'm joined today by Maddie Cummings, Director of Lake Region Public Library in Devils Lake. I've known Maddie for about 2.5 years, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today and hearing more of her story. So thank you for joining me, Maddie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Maddie, the mission of the State Library is creating pathways to information and innovation. What was your pathway to your position as library director?
Well, I loved that you used the word meandering earlier because I definitely would apply that word to my own pathway into libraries. Um, I started my life after high school in vocal music education at NDSU in Fargo, and discovered that I was just too sad without theater, which I had done all through elementary, middle, high school. And so I switched to uh, pursue my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Musical Theater Performance, thinking that I would just teach that one day because my mother was a financial planner. And so it wasn't a viable career to perform in theater, but it was a viable career to teach something. So, and so I graduated in 2016 with a BFA in musical theater and a minor in music. And I performed and music directed for a while before I went on to grad school. I got another music degree in there, as one does. And so then I headed down to Oklahoma City, where I went to Oklahoma City University, and I was getting a Master of Music in vocal coaching, which is essentially collaborative piano, which is just a fancy, teaching voice, but emphasizing musical theater. And then COVID hit, and that was bad. And so I was seeing my boyfriend at the time. He was practicing law out in Williston, and I was in Oklahoma City. And I was like, well, I might as well go quarantine up in North Dakota with him. He had just been tapped to be the public defender in Devils Lake. And so I said, well, I'll go to that town. I've never really heard of it, but we'll see what's up there. And then, everything changed, and I opted not to go back to school. And I kind of just floundered around in Devils Lake for a year. And then the position at the library opened up, and somebody somewhere heard me, I don't know, probably yelling in the streets because I am kind of loud sometimes, and said, oh, Bo, your wife should apply for this library job. And I said, I'm not qualified for that. And they said, who cares? And I said, great. So I sent in my stuff and didn't expect anything to come out of it, and was very pleasantly surprised to just have this amazing conversation with the president and members of the board at the time about what public libraries have grown into recently, and just like the crux of public service nowadays, which has always been very near and dear to my heart. And they created a position for me. At the time, it was Director of Outreach and Innovation. And so I did a year of that to kind of get the nuts and bolts of librarianship under my belt. Then I accidentally got pregnant right away and left on maternity leave. And then when I came back, I took over as full director of the library here. So it's been absolutely completely unplanned being here, and that goes against everything in my nature, but it has been incredible, and I would not have changed a single step to get here. So it's been really cool.
That's awesome. And you are doing a fantastic job, definitely with the innovation piece of
I'm blushing.
Of that position as well.
Thank you.
Do you find that your previous training, you background in music and drama and theater, plays a role as library director?
Absolutely, I do. I think one of the biggest things that has been noticed and at least audibly commented on, whether or not directly to me, but to, I feel like it always comes from my husband. So like I take it with a grain of salt because, like my parents pay him to be nice to me. So who knows if what he's saying is true or not. But um but it's a lot of like, oh my gosh, like Maddie, she's doing so good. Like she's doing all this stuff in the community. Like we see her at events and she's plugging the library at Art Fest and she's going to commission meetings and she's volunteering at the French Toast Feed and she's doing all that, and so I think having that ability to step away from the desk has really served me well. And so obviously like being unafraid to speak in front of people and be in front of people has absolutely helped with that. um, I worked at the Empire Arts Center in Grand Forks for a while. And so background in nonprofit admin, I think also just really helped with event coordination. I mean, that's library programming to a T, right? And so that has certainly lent itself to budgeting and grant writing and all those good things as well. Um, and then it's always just also fun um, to be a multi-dimensional person so that people don't just associate, yes, especially in a small town, people tend to associate one person with one thing. So my doctor is just my doctor until I see her at the bar and then she's a real human. And so trying to make myself a real human out in the community. And so if I am singing with the orchestra or I'm accompanying the high school choir or I'm directing the high school musical, like that helps me be seen as more than a person. And then they're more likely to come up and talk to me. And then I can plug the library more on their unsuspecting selves. So it's just a win-win for everybody.
A great way to reach maybe some non-library users as well.
Exactly. Totally different populations.
What have you found to be surprising about being a library director?
Well, um I guess I don't know if it's, some of it is, I don't know how much of this is specific to libraries as much as well, okay. Rewind. Government, I didn't realize how ingrained and governmental services libraries provide when I walked in here. And so that has definitely been really interesting and kind of exciting. And so it's really like awakened the civic uh, servant side of me. And I am extra passionate now about voting and being involved in my local level of things. And I really, really wish that I could like take more of a stand and run for my local commissions and things like that. But, there's conflicts with funding and things, but also my husband is now the state's attorney. And so there's a lot of like, I can't take a stand because he can't take a stand. So, there's other political things there. But I get really worked up about like shade tree committees and the purchase of flowers that go in the hanging pots around town now. And that is all kind of a result of the library being part of the government, which which is not really a great answer to the question. But I think that's really only because of the previous kind of non-profit or not for profit experience that I had, because everything else, thankfully, I could fake my way through enough. I can pretend like I know enough about a budget to craft something for the next year. I can pretend I know enough about a heating and cooling system to get a bid to replace it. I can pretend that I know enough about switching to LED lighting to make it happen. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
um and two, I mean, I know, if we all know, it's no secret that all these challenges and things are happening, and that it's a hard time for libraries and it's a hard time in North Dakota. And we have just been so fortunate in Devil's Lake, and we've been this little bubble of support, and we've had so many patrons come out of the woodwork and say, what can I do to support the library? And I say, keep being amazing and thank you so much. And, when we need to write letters and do things, like, I'll let you know. But we haven't, knock on wood, haven't had a single challenge, haven't had a single complaint, have not had a single anything, um, which has both surprised and excited me. So that's been awesome.
That's great.
Meandering answers.
I do, no, I do think it is a good answer though, because I think people don't think of libraries when they think of government,
For sure.
but libraries are part of local government, and depending on the state you're in, libraries are different parts of local government in different ways. The library I worked at in Illinois before I came to North Dakota was its own taxing district, the same as the school district, the same as the park district, the roads, the county, the city. We were just another item on your tax bill explicitly spelled out. Here in North Dakota, libraries are considered a political subdivision, and so they are funded either by the city and or the county. And so we are governmental, but yet we don't function as a governmental entity in that we serve anyone who walks through our doors. And we're really, truly, I just saw someone post this recently, and it resonated with me so much. I've been in the library world a little longer than you have, by a couple decades. And this resonated with me so much. And ironically, it was actually posted by my childhood librarian, children's librarian. Libraries are like one of, if not the last place in the country, if not the world, where you can come in and take advantage of all the things we offer for free. And you can just exist and be who you are. And I think that's such an important thing that we do in today's complicated world.
Absolutely. And it just it boggles my mind when we break down, at least in my city, when we break down the taxable value on a property owner's statement. A property owner in the city of Devils Lake pays less per year for the library than they do for the cemetery. You know what I mean? And look at all the services you get to use while you are breathing at the library. And then, and it's just, oh my gosh, that just blows my mind in such a great way, like and so I guess one of the other surprising things is how I feel like I'm screaming all of the things we have to offer from the rooftops every second of every day, and how many people still don't like know how much we do and what they have at their fingertips in this building. And so that's all. I mean, there's lots, that's shared by everybody in every size library and every corner of the world, I'm sure. But that was definitely a surprise coming into libraries too, is just how many people come into a library and they go, oh, like, I wanted to work here because I love to read. And I go, oh, honey, if only you knew what more you could do at the library.
Right. Yeah. I wish we got a chance to sit and read while we were working.
I know, right?
I think you hit on something really important, Maddie. A lot of people don't know all the things that libraries do. Libraries are about books. We will always be about books, right? That'll always be our main commodity that we offer. But libraries offer so many more things today. What are some of the things that someone who hasn't been to a library in a while would walk into Devil's Lake and go, holy buckets, I didn't know the Lake Region Public Library had this?
For sure. Oh, I love that. So our big thing that the community is really starting to take and run with lately has been our meeting rooms. So we have 2 rooms that they're not small. They're not individual meeting rooms. I wish we had small little study rooms, but they're not. So we have our community room, and then we have our heritage room that's in the library proper. And we have made them available at no charge, which was not the case in the beginnings of the library, but they are available at no charge. And so they are widely used by nonprofit groups and advocacy social services groups and or for interviews or training or telehealth visits, or if you need to have a Zoom call and you just don't want to do it on your couch, and so that has been something where every month we're seeing upwards of 50 or 60 individuals or groups come through and use those rooms, which for our community of 7,000, that's pretty good, which we really
Absolutely.
like. We offer a wide range of personal care products for people who are coming through and need to utilize some of those. Obviously, we have the free and open Wi-Fi and the computers. We're also one of the biggest things that, again, in a smaller town that people don't think about. We are the only place in town that you can print a document, that you can scan a document, that you can fax something. Like we don't have a Staples, we don't have a Kinko's, you literally cannot go anywhere else in town and print something, which is bananas, but it's true. And so just little things like that, let alone the, extensive, we have a really popular DVD collection that is DVDs are also never going away, apparently, especially in our community. And then we have a library of things collection that people love to go through, and the surprising things they get from us there, the extension ladder to clean out gutters, which my husband currently has checked out because our gutters are atrocious. And um, and the remote access that we were just able to implement because of a very generous grant from the state library, so that groups and individuals who are looking to utilize the secure community room after hours are able to do so, and we are able to allow them in without a staff member physically having to come to the library and unlock the door, which has been whew, amazing. And so, those all these little things that stack up day after day after day. Um, Juvenile court holds tutoring sessions here every week, job services here every month. We have all these social services that come. We have social groups that meet here. We have our book club, we have exterior book clubs, we have a quilters guild, we have, you name it, and chances are they've met at the library at least once. And people have been hired here, people have been fired here from their jobs. It's a nice private space outside of the office. It's got something for everybody, um, and not to mention all of our super duper fun and pretty much 100% free programs that we put on. So I just love it. I get
For
worked up 'cause I love it.
I'm really a little sad for you listeners who aren't seeing Maddie as well as hearing her. She is super passionate, and it shows. Like she's throwing up her hands and facial expressions, and
Gesticulating wildly.
and I just really wish at some point maybe you'll have an opportunity to have a video, that maybe we'll do a video podcast, but that was an aside. Maddie, libraries of things is a term that we use. Some
Oh,
people may not know what that means. Explain what that is.
yeah. So our library of things is what we call anything that is not a book, essentially, or a movie. And for us in the Lake region, we also classify anything that's not a game, like a board game, because we have been circulating board games for many years. So if there if there's a need for, so we have a laptop that patrons can check out for a week at a time. We have a mobile hotspot, extension ladders. We're working on adding things like crochet needles, cake pans, really kind of specific niche items that people may not want to spend money on, but really want to use like one time. And so the ones that are really specific to our region that we are proud of is we have a couple nature backpacks because, lake is large. And so we have one that is dedicated to hiking, kind of with White Horse Hill in mind. And so it is a big camping backpack that's got some great stuff that you might need for a big day of hiking, with books on identifying local plants and animals and binoculars, and a flashlight and a first aid kit, safety first, safety always. And then we also have an ice fishing backpack. So if you want to try your hand at ice fishing without investing in a rod and a scoop and traction cleats and all those kinds of things, we have those in a backpack for you. Or if you want to visit for our crazy ice fishing tournament every year and win one of the like bajillion worth of prizes, but you don't want to bring your own stuff, check it out from our library of things. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. And then you talked about programs. You do a bazillion programs, I think is the word that you used.
That's one or two.
What are a few of the programs that your library offers?
Yeah, well, so I get a lot of questions since I've started. I try to take care of most of the older teen and adult kind of programs, because that was definitely a hole that was missing both in our library services, but also kind of in our community, especially for people who don't consume alcohol, of which I am one. I don't like to drink. And so I just tried to kind of fill that gap a little bit when I started here. And so I get a lot of questions all the time of like, oh, where did you come up with that idea? Or what made you? And I said, well, there's something that I wanted to do. And so I made a program to do it. And it just so happened that other people wanted to do it too. So it was really fortuitous that happened. And so some of the things that we do, we bring a free yoga class to the library every other week in the summer. That's for all experience levels, and that is outside, weather permitting, which is really nice. For our children, we have a great children's librarian who hosts story time for our preschoolers a couple times a week. And then she has lots and lots of cool drop-in and crafty kind of activities that she does for our kind of ages 0 to 13-ish. And then we just do a variety we show movies, we do crafts. This summer we're having a little mini concert series because I like music. So we're bringing in a West African harpist.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I'm really excited about, and a Bangladeshi singer. And then 3 of Maddie's high school theater friends who formed a band. With the thought that if you can't go anywhere to be on an adventure and see some cool music, we'll bring the adventure to you with our summer reading theme, Adventure Begins at Your Library. So we're stretching it a little bit with the Maddie's friends from high school, but you know what? We're gonna make it work. It's great. And then last year it was so crazy. I love zoos and I love animals. And the nearest zoo to Devil's Lake is in Minot, which is 100 miles away. And I said, is there any chance that you would bring a couple small animals to Devil's Lake and do a little program at the library? And they said, sure. I said, great. And then we advertised it as a summer reading program. And I thought that maybe, maybe 30 or 40 people would come, and then 300 people came. And so we're doing that again this year, and we're doing 2 offerings of the same program, and we're expecting that maybe 500 people will come, which is bonkers.
Wowza. Yeah, so, that's a lot.
And it's just this little thing, it's like 3 reptiles, you know what I mean? It's not anything groundbreaking or brand new or remaking the wheel here. It's just, I thought that zoo animals would be fun, and so I tried to make it happen. And then it's clearly something that the community wants and needs. And so then that tells me, okay, what's along those lines that I can do? And then that informs me for the next year. So just a little snapshot into some fun things we do.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And do you have ideas for programs or services that you're hoping to implement in the future?
Lots. I have a lot of social and service minded initiatives in mind that I just need to be more people to enact. We have a relatively steady poverty rate, and we have a relatively high rate of people with housing insecurity, experiencing housing insecurity. And so I have lots of ideas and connections with people to, help assist with services and kind of help to alleviate some of that insecurity, but I just don't have the hours in the day. So those are always things that are at the top of my mind. But on a fun note, I love a crafty moment, and so I have a whole year's worth um, of a crafting club for adults planned out. But I always go next month. Next month I'm gonna put it in for the first month, and then all of a sudden it's the next month again, and then it hasn't happened quite yet. So we're finally for in June. I made myself put it on the calendar, so we do it. We're making little jewelry like trinket dishes out of oyster shells and fun napkins where you little decoupage them and then you put gold paint around the side and then you get a little ring dish. So I'm really excited about those.
Very fun.
Mhm.
And what strikes me through this conversation and just sort of my philosophy about libraries is, libraries are about connecting their community to not only knowledge, but to personal enrichment, to expanding their horizons, to connecting them to resources that they need in their everyday life. And you've talked about all of those. You've talked about medical with telehealth and personal enrichment with crafting programs and story time and education with literacy efforts. And so really your library is doing so much for your community, and really looking forward to seeing where you go next and what else you bring to the library checkout desk, I guess.
Oh,
I was going to say to the table, but really I was trying to make a library analogy out of it. Just a fun thing to those connections. I was a library director in Illinois, and we started a program in 2001 called Crafters Night Out at the library. And we did different versions of it. The longest standing one is we would have Crafters Night Out in conjunction with Family Movie Night. So we'd show a movie in our meeting room. Kiddos would come in and watch a family-friendly movie, and then mostly moms in our case, but parents could hang out in the library and work on whatever crafting project they had. We started that in 2001. In March of this year, I drove 900 miles to connect with some of those gals and scrapbook with them. And so, those connections that libraries create last, right? Like life-changing. You are changing people's lives every day without even knowing it.
Well, and that's even last summer we did a tie blanket program, and we donated the blankets to our cat shelter in town. And a gal that I had kind of seen around town who was around my age, but I'd never really talked to, came and she happened to sit next to me as we were doing. And so we kind of struck up conversation, and she took the leap and messaged me on Facebook a couple days later and said, there's trivia at this brewery. Do you want to go, be on my team? I feel like you'd be good at it. And I said, oh, adult friendship is really weird and hard, but okay, I'll try. And then that just blossomed into this really beautiful friendship. And she just moved away, but like I can tell we're going to be in contact for many years. And it was because of a library program that she came to. And then she took the leap to start talking outside of the library. And now here we are. And it just, yeah, so I mean, medical, educational, social as well, I think is
absolutely
just as essential.
And that's the one that people don't think about,
I
but
know.
that's probably the one that libraries do the most without libraries even realizing sometimes the connections that they're making. We had a patron at the library that I was just talking about, crusty old guy. Like he scared some of our staff. He was a barker, right? But we had a writers club, and one of our other younger patrons came, and unfortunately this patron was estranged from his adult kids, and she became like a surrogate daughter to him. And then through that friendship with Tracy, he actually reconnected with his family as well. And he was writing a book, and he was doing an incredibly deep amount of research for this fiction book he was writing. But I was at the reference desk one day talking with my colleague who was working the desk. And this patron, Mr. M, came in and he walked up and he saw me and he said, you're the second one to die. And without missing a beat, most people would have said, what are you talking about? Right. I looked at him and I said, and why am I not the first one to die? Because I have put up with you way longer than this person has. And he was writing a fiction book about library staffs getting killed in the library. So, and it was just a fun friendship. And really, it was a family kinship that grew out of that library writers program.
Yeah.
And we need those connections today more than we ever have.
Absolutely.
You mentioned COVID and it changed so much about our world, but libraries were steadfast through it and will continue to be steadfast. And, we'll be here in 100 years making those social, emotional, educational, and all those other things. Maddie, it has been so much fun to talk with you. I'm going to ask one final question. What's one thing that you want our listeners to take away about Lake Region Public Library in Devils Lake, North Dakota?
The one takeaway for the Lake Region Public Library, I would say, is that all are welcome. Hope you stop in and say hello sometime. And I said in my interview that the one thing I want to see when I come into a library is a comfortable place to sit so that it makes me want to stay for a while. So I hope that you find that here in my library today.
That's awesome. That's so wonderful, Maddie. Thank you for joining me today on Pathways Through the Prairie. I have really enjoyed our conversation and learning more about your pathway into the library world and about the amazing things that your library is doing. And I look forward to learning more as we continue to grow our relationship. So thank you so much.
This was awesome.